Reliving the Duncton Chronicles on audio is such a rewarding experience. Hello everyone, and welcome to Dutchgreybeard. After listening to Duncton Wood, the book that turned me into a reader for life in 1981, I continued with Duncton Quest, the second book in this trilogy by British author William Horwood. As mentioned in my reading experience of his debut novel, Horwood published 3 other books before continuing with his Duncton Chronicles. Duncton Quest was published in 1988, 8 years after his debut. This book is much broader in scope than Part 1 in all possible ways. The moles worship the stone, which is a religion instead of a doctrine. The followers of the stone have an unshakable belief in a higher power that surpasses their own will. Their belief is nowhere turned into monotheism. Their faith ultimately focuses on trusting the elements and themselves without being dogmatic about it. The followers of the stone are averse to the urge to convert others. Then a new group of mole emerges. They proclaim to be the believers of the Word, a faith that is essentially dogmatic. Unlike the peaceful followers of the stone, they have a strong need to convert everyone to their faith, if not for good, then for bad. And their charismatic but utterly cruel leader, the female henbane, is not impressed by killing moles in a whim. In the end, the moles of the Word feel intimidated by the followers' instinctive trust in the mystical stone. It instills fear in them, which manifests itself in aggression, which has a consequence that is well known to us humans: war. Tryphon, Bracken's son from the first part, plays an important role in this war, and the root finder Mayweed, the most vibrant and well-spoken character in the book, is his most loyal friend. The followers, led by Tryphon, try to escape the oppression of the moles of the Word, who are on a deadly mission to eradicate the old religion of the stone. With a group of followers, Tryphon travels in search of the mysterious stone mole, who is prophesied to be coming to aid moledom and the stone in their darkest hour. He is supposed to bring salvation to all of moledom. To do this, Tryphon must travel to the most unnatural system he has ever been to, the Wen, which lies deep into the toxic, concrete-filled metropolis we know as London. At the end of this book, the stone mole comes to ground, although not in the way Tryphon had anticipated. From there, the story continues in the third book, Duncton Found, which I'm listening to right now. This book on audio brought me to tears many times. Horwood has the ability to touch emotional strings that resonate deep within me. His characters, even though being moles, are very much alive and realistic, with contradictions and many personal traits. In this book, Tryphon meets Mayweed, who is one of the most memorable characters I know. Mayweed, who has survived the dreaded scalp skin, an infectious disease, is small and his coat has bald spots. He hides his insecurity by using many words in long and eloquent sentences, always referring to himself in third person or simply as humbleness. The following sequence won't spoil anything, but it's a good example of how Horwood's writing touches the emotional strings of a reader. In a conversation with Tryphon and Spindle, the subject of scribing comes up, and Mayweed asks,
"If it is better for a mole of the stone to be a scribe mole to reach the silence and the light, then Mayweed wonders what hope there is for humble and pathetic bodies such as he, Mayweed, me, myself. Or is Sir saying, magnanimous Sir, and very wise too, that a diseased mole such as Mayweed, born in the darkness of Slopeside, and forcibly taken from it with the best of intentions by Tryphon himself, might aspire to scribe moledom?"
Tryphon answers that he cannot see why Mayweed couldn't become a scribe mole. He asks the root finder what he would scribe.
Mayweed wrinkled his brow, and for once seemed short of words. Then, in a way that was touchingly humble, he looked at his talons and his diseased flanks. Mayweed would scribe his name. That's what he'd do. Then he'd show it to other moles to prove that he was a mole worth knowing because he could scribe his name from its beginning to its end. Trevor spoke softly to Spindle and was gone, leaving Mayweed to ask what he had said. "Something good, something bad, Sublime Spindle?" He said, "You are a mole worth knowing already. You don't need to scribe your name for a mole to know that." "Oh," said Mayweed, very surprised. "Did he?" "Yes, he did. And he meant it," said Spindle. "Oh," said Mayweed. "Oh."
The next day, when the other moles of their company are celebrating their escape from the Grikes, which are the soldier moles of the word, Mayweed is missing. Trevor finds him along the banks of a stream, alone, wet, shivering and muddy. He had been crying. The sad mole tells Trevor that he was trying to go home. After some prodding, Mayweed finally says,
"Mayweed wanted to join in, but Mayweed couldn't. Skint and Smithles had their song, and Willow had her tune, and Brevis had his prayer, and Spindle had his stories, and you, Sir Good Trevor, had Duncton Wood to tell of. But Mayweed had nothing to give, sir. Mayweed has nothing. No memory but darkness and tunnels, and nothing."
Mayweed believes that his scalp skin is worsening and that he's dying, and he finally admits that he didn't want to go home, but that he had tried to drown himself. He keeps on repeating that he has nothing to give.
"But I have nothing to give," cried out poor Mayweed. "Yes, you have, as all moles have." "What?" Mayweed asked, trembling. "The stone will show you. Trust it. So come now."
Just a few more quotes to give you an idea of the depth of this world Horwood has created.
Boswell used to say that the problem for mole is to decide which life, the real one they experience or the one they try to make despite experience. Yes, life is difficult and finally it is mortal, for all moles die. If their life is merely protecting themselves from death, then their life is more than difficult, it is impossible, for they have set themselves a task at which they can never succeed, and they have made themselves afraid of life itself. So accepting that life is difficult is the first step to freedom from fear. Truth that a mole's life is difficult. Many avoid such problems, and so they never truly live. For living is in the solving. Restlessness is in the avoiding. Discipline is in dwelling on what is, rather than living in a self-made dream of what is not. It is in accepting that there is risk in the way ahead, yet taking it. It is in telling truth, whatever the loss may be. It is in learning to live in the darkness while always seeking the light. The stone discovers mole's courage in many different ways, and yet, if there is one truth a mole can speak of the stone, it is that it always gives a mole a task that mole can do, if he or she has the will to do it. For a mole must first forgive himself if he is truly to accept the forgiveness of others.
Even though my love for these books is obvious, I have a few complaints. Horwood uses many pages to describe nature, the many tracks the moles make, and explaining things like the background of the word. These significantly slow down the pace of the story, which sometimes make it a bit of a drag. Nevertheless, this spiritual and social allegory will forever remain one of my all-time favorites, and I will keep on recommending this trilogy to anyone. This beautiful saga will melt your heart in many different ways. Thank you very much for watching this video. Until we meet again at Dutchgreybeard.